Tiers are a way of roughly judging the difficulty of a jump, course, or map. There are 6 tiers, T1 the easiest, through T6 the hardest, plus T0, which is reserved for things which are impossible. Maps are tiered by their hardest jump. If a map has 20 jumps that would fit in a T1 map, then one jump that's T5, the map would be considered T5. Understanding map tiers can give you insight into what maps might be roughly at your level, as well as what techniques you may be lacking in. Tier 1 maps are at a difficulty level that players can expect to achieve after just a couple hours of practice or less. Chances are you can beat every T1 map if you just work at it enough. To achieve a level of comfort with maps at this tier, you want to become proficient at getting powerful rocket jumps, strafing, simple wall shots, and short pogos. There are very few full maps that remain at T1. Of these, Jump Rush. However, I would suggest that rather than going to T1 maps, you instead start with T1 courses in larger maps, such as the ABC course in JA Classic or Easy Strafe in JA2. T2 maps start to branch out and include a wide variety of techniques. You may see extended wall shots, more difficult strafes, longer or more precise pogos and skips, sinks, and more. At this point, you won't see too many things combined together because combining techniques often requires a degree of consistency beyond that which is expected out of T2 jumps. That being said, this is the point where you'll start to see jumps challenge you to put skills together and test your consistency. There's a ton more T2 maps out there for you to enjoy. Some of the popular T2s include Beef, Beyond, Elephant, Serenity, and Summer. Jump Competitive is an honorable mention, since while it's not very good as a jump map, it has jumps from competitive maps, which, depending on your motivation for jumping, might be worth your looking into. T3 maps include a rich variety of techniques that can be combined in various ways. The techniques you perform here cover most of the things you learn in rocket jumping, such as wall catches and sinks, quints, bounces, wall pogo, and so much more. Becoming comfortable with these maps puts you at a level of skill within rocket jumping that few achieve, and you'll be set up to outperform nearly everyone you run into in casual, and many playing competitively. There's a huge amount of T3 maps, and I could easily list a dozen and still leave out several very good maps that are well worth playing. Here are some of the most well-known and well-loved T3s. Christmas, Home, Jerf, Quattro, Sithood, Sketchy. In the interest of keeping my list short, I left out a lot of maps in this tier that I really love. Those looking to continue to learn rocket jumping beyond T3 will venture into T4 maps. Jumps in this tier are often longer and tighter than those you find in T3 maps. Some jumps will be awkward and require you to strafe in strange ways between rockets, while others will require you to be precise over and over again. You'll be seeing wall sinks and ramp sinks in the middle of jumps, and long wall pogos with multiple down pogos are fair game. As far as map variety goes, there are technically more T4 maps than T3, but a lot of these are demo intended. You can beat them with some tricky wall pogo, and many T4 maps are unfortunately not so great as T3s. Here's some of the best T4s though. For starters, Fifth, Lathy, Obelisk, Vanilla, Deserted, and the destinations. Tier 5 maps start to really bring the heat. The hardest jumps in these maps tend to either require an extremely high degree of consistency, or require you to do something that you wouldn't dream of doing earlier. You'll see ramp triples with a pre-fire, upward sinks after triples on walls and wedges, long jumps that end in quints, and other similar obstacles that really test your jumping ability. There's lots of great T5s out there to explore, with a large variety of techniques that you'll have to do. Some of the best are Apex, It, DD Please, Little Man, Stella, Sven, and Yona. For those whom T5 maps are just not enough, there's the wacky world of T6 maps. Anything goes here, and the difficulty ranges from maps that are just a bit too hard to fit in T5 to the hardest maps ever created, and the gap there is huge. T6 maps tend to have either a lot of extremely difficult pre-fire sync jumps, extremely hard and long wall pogo with niche techniques, or require an insane degree of consistency, such as the 10 quints back-to-back in jump sync. Some people will split up T6 into smaller groups to explain the difference in difficulty between these maps, T6 through T10. There's some debate on just how hard some maps are, so some people will give different tiers for these maps. Plus, if you look in JA or on Tempest, they're all listed as just T6. Some of the best low T6s are Baku, Falvism, Lion, Sync, Koro, Owakari, and Temple. As for some of the maps that are further on the T9 to T10 end, there's Hanami, Bangarang, the only one on this last list which I've done, Geronimo, Nincompoop, and the current hardest map, Rick O'Connell. Let's come back down from T6 land and think about what sorts of jumps seem fit for you. Based on these descriptions and showcases, consider your jumping ability and decide what map might be right for you. There's so many maps out there for you to enjoy, and hopefully having a better understanding of the tier system will steer you to the ones that fit you best. Before I sign off, I want to remind you that even if you're capable of T4 maps, for example, that doesn't mean you can't still enjoy T2 maps. It can be really fun to play an easier map and try to see how consistently or quickly you can do the jumps. Have fun, and happy jumping!